spring has finally sprung and the snow's melted and it's about 15, 16 degrees today. And I've come up to get the property ready for the spring and the summer. I have a whole list of things to do today. And I get here and surprise, surprise, there's a tree down over the driveway. Now the neighbor sent me a text message to tell me that there was a tree down, and I expected that I would need to go and grab my chainsaw. But as it turns out, it's pretty small. And I think this will be a perfect opportunity for me to get the tractor started and just to push it off of the driveway. So let's go get the tractor warmed up and take care of this tree here. And then we can get started on our daily projects. I've actually kept the tractor on the neighbor's property for the winter because we don't actually keep our driveway plowed. So it's actually just right here. And it looks like it's been untouched. I do keep the doors locked, but you know, trees and rodents can still find their way. All right, first start of the year. I mean, it's been sitting for 2.5, 3 months now since I had it delivered after the repair work, and it starts right up. It says low fuel. I do think there's an issue with the fuel level sensor because I'm pretty sure I put diesel in it last year. So while this is warming up, let me just lift up these stabilizers. And we'll dump out the water that's in the buckets. Awesome. All right, well, I figured this would be a good time for a small tour. I'm walking down a little bit of a hill here. We have our septic bed over here on my right, and that also happens to be where we have our beehive. So one of my projects for later on today is to get the electric fence set back up around the beehive so that the bears don't disturb it. We have our tractor parked here. I have all the gas cans and stuff over here. I need to clean this up a little bit. And then we have the building foundation for our new shed. So it's 10 feet wide, 16 feet long. If you guys watched his video, you would have seen James from Wild Homestead came up here September-ish last year and helped me dig the footings with his electric auger. Then we poured the concrete, and I brought these 6x6s home and cut them with my bandsaw. Part of my goal for today is to make sure that this is nice and square, and then I can outline where the brackets go, and I can drill the holes for the anchoring bolts, and I can get all that buttoned up so that we can get started on the floor and the subfloor and the framing for the walls and the roof. And I've sourced an 8-foot garage door that we're going to put on one side. The carport is going to be right here where my hand is. So this wall right here is going to be 12 or 14 feet tall, and there's going to be a big long overhang that covers a parking spot for the tractor and the ATV and the gator, and whatever else I need. I won't show you too much of the actual cabin, but it's over here on my right, and then we're going back up this little hill. The main driveway is actually over here. So we're going up a secondary driveway that I made last year. The beehive, if you can see it, is that light blue thing right there. We'll take a look later on. There's always cleanup to do after the winter, lots of branches down. Neighbor's property is actually just right here. So there's the beehive right above my finger. So we'll check that out later, make sure they're still alive after the winter and here after the winter. And we'll get the electric fence set up again. And I'm just gonna go grab the ATV from the end of the driveway, and I will take you to the 130 acres down the road where we are doing our hunting and firewood harvesting. And I'll show you around that property. So this right here is a 1992 Honda 4Trax 300. This is the four-wheel drive version. And I recently picked this up. I just needed something that was reliable and not crazy expensive. And it's been awesome so far. So I'm gonna get the camera mounted. We'll get the drone up in the air, and we'll see if we can get some nice shots along the road to the property. And then we'll do a tour of the property. that's the road entrance right there. This is the very beginning of the actual sort of ATV trail on the property. And so I figured I would just do a little bit of a tour. I'm not sure how much audio we're going to be able to get because the ATV is a bit loud, but let's see how it goes. So this entire area on my left is the first area that was logged last year. And I mean, up until last year, this was all bush. This was all forest here. I think there was probably like 3 to 5 acres here on my left. There's another 3 to 5 acres on top of the hill past the hunting blind that we'll go to. And then James from Wild Homestead and I, probably 5 years ago now, we started clearing about a ½ acre up the hill directly to my right. So there are basically 3 areas where there are clearings. And the biggest issue right now is, sorry, I'm just getting this thing back into neutral. The biggest issue right now is I need to get rid of all these treetops. And so I would love to have some grasses and some other sort of vegetation that I plant here. And I have some seeds already, but I need to get rid of the treetops. And so one of the big projects I think for this spring is I'll just spend as much time as possible down here with the tractor, and I'll just sort of push and pull the branches and the treetops probably into a big pile somewhere, and then over time it'll just decompose. So we're gonna basically venture further up this trail. We're gonna hit the at the top of the hill. We're gonna hit the hunting blind, the elevated hunting blind, and that elevated hunting blind has a great sort of overwatch position over this whole area here that's below it on my left, and then the next sort of 3 or 4 acre clearing that's beyond it. So let me get the ATV started again here, and we'll get going. So this whole area here has been cleared and logged. It's probably closer to sort of 5 acres. So up the hill now, this is where the hunting blind is. So this is a 6 foot by 6 foot hunting blind. It has a metal roof. It's all pressure treated. It's been absolutely fantastic. I have a brand new chair that I'm going to put in for this year. This window on the front, I actually made a bit of a miscalculation when I built it, and the window is far too low. So one of my goals is to either put in a larger window or just to raise the level of that window. So from this position, there is a small clearing here. There is a much larger clearing over there, which is about 3 acres. And then you have a view of basically all of this down here. And so once I clean up all of these treetops, it'll be basically a nice open field, and hopefully great habitat for the animals. There's tons and tons and tons of deer activity in the spring and the summer. And the trouble is, during hunting season, the deer tend to go elsewhere. And so I'm trying my hardest to modify the property as much as possible to create a better habitat for the animals. So there's the big pond on the other side, but there's also a marshy area with some cedars up here. There's another marshy area further down that way. And plus all of that down there is swamp. And so, you know, in terms of water and cover, there's quite a bit here. You know, food-wise, I really thought the treetops would, you know, would be a great buffet for the animals, and I didn't really see a ton. I had some cameras set up. I didn't really see a ton of activity, you know, late into the summer and into the early fall. So this is another area here that's been cleared. Again, it's probably in the 3 to 5 acre range. Also, the treetops need to be cleaned up, which is annoying. I really didn't think I would have that much work to do, but there obviously is. The guy who did the logging was supposed to actually clean up all the treetops with an excavator, and he basically disappeared without paying. I tracked him down. I ended up getting a few $100s, but it was not anywhere near what he owed. And so that whole thing is still in process. So I think this is gonna be another location. One of these trees here, I'd like to set up another hunting stand. But there actually has been quite a bit of activity. Or there was quite a bit of activity last fall in this area. I'm gonna start posting some trail camera pictures. I forgot to bring batteries with me today. So when I come back in a week, I'm gonna bring a ton of batteries, get all the trail cams back up in action. I have 2 solar cameras, maybe 3 solar cameras that are still sending pictures. But I would like to get all of the other cameras ready to go. I'm not sure how much further I want to go. It's tough actually riding the ATV with one hand, trying to shift with the thumb throttle. So let's see how this goes. This area here is where James and I first started cutting down trees. So before Wild Homestead existed, we spent quite a bit of time up here. I'll show you some trees that he has cut down and logs that he sort of spent some time practicing peeling back at the entrance to the property. But this is about half an acre, like a generous half acre. And I think this would actually be pretty easy to clean up. There are some larger logs here that actually the tractor should have no problem moving out of the way. And this area gets tons of activity. So lots of bear, moose, and deer. They always show up on the trail cameras here. I have a hunting stand set up on that tree over there. And yeah, I mean, it gets tons of sunshine. It's a great little spot. So the little pond is, there's a trail right straight ahead, a very small trail that leads all the way down to that pond. So at some point, in the next year or two, I would love to have all the treetops cleared up. And I would love to have a relatively, flat trail that connects the very front of the property to that pond. I'm considering renting a bulldozer for a couple of days. I think, if I had a bulldozer for a day, I could get a ton of work done. If I had it for a weekend or a long weekend, I could get this entire property done, quite easily. You push all the treetops out of the way into the big pile. Stumps like this would take me forever to try and dig out with the backhoe. On my tractor, with a bulldozer, you could pretty much push that out of the way. Well, with a big enough bulldozer, you could pretty much push that out of the way. So that's the plan for the next little bit. I forgot, I did mention I would show the logs that James peeled. So these were some spruce trees that he cut down and peeled here. And they've been here for, 3-4 years. 4 or 5 years maybe. So there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that right? 11. So, seeing as he is several hours away, and I don't think he's going to be coming to get them, I'm going to utilize them for my garage build. So the carport, with the large angled roof on the carport, I'm going to use these as the support posts. So instead of doing like a steel tube or a 6x6, I'm going to use these for the support posts. And they look to be about, 14 feet long. And they look to be about 14 feet long, which would be perfect. So they're not going to go to waste, and they're nice and dry. They should be relatively easy to move around with the tractor. So I'm going to head back to the property now. I'm going to have a drink and a snack, and I'm going to get started on the shed foundation. All right, well, 2 very annoying things just happened. So the first is I didn't realize the driver's seat of the Gator was full of water. So when I sat down, I ended up with a very, very wet butt, which isn't fun. Number 2, and the good news is I didn't really have much left to do with the tractor today. But I noticed that the cab door was slightly open, so I shut it and didn't realize that the keys are inside the tractor. So the tractor is going to sit here for the next couple of weeks while I find a new key. I'm pretty sure replacements are pretty easy. So I'm going to get all the toys parked over here past where the garage is going to go. And then we're going to get on to some of our jobs for today. So I think number 1 is going to be checking out the bees and repairing the electric fence. So I have 4 electric fence posts out there already that I used last year. I bought 6 more, so I'd like to make a much larger enclosure around the bees. I have a 200-foot long extension cord that I run from the building here to where the bees are to power the electric fence. So yeah, I think that's going to be job number 1. So there's a black insulating blanket around the beehive. The beehive is like light blue in color. It's that wooden box. I don't hear anything. Now, if they run out of food, for example, in the winter, the colony can die. If in the spring they run out of food, they can swarm, which means that they basically just leave the hive and fly somewhere else to make up a new home. It's a little bit concerning that I don't see or hear anything. All right, so again, I don't have my full, bee suit on. I just have a regular mosquito shirt and some regular work gloves. Usually you can hear them buzzing, especially considering that there are like several thousand Hey Meta, start recording. Oh, damn. They're all dead. No. Damn. So last year was our first year having bees. And so we are not experts at all. But we've read the books and we've listened to the podcasts and watched the YouTube videos. And it's just disappointing because you put so much effort into it. We come up pretty frequently, and a lot of times we come up just to check up on the hive, make sure that things are looking good, and, making adjustments when we need to. So it's just annoying, really annoying. My wife will be disappointed for sure. If any of you guys have bees and have any idea what happened, so they had 8 frames of honey. No, well, they had 6 or 8 frames of honey. But yeah, they're all dead. They did not survive the winter. All right, well, it's getting hot. It's warmed up. It's about 16 degrees right now. The sun's trying to come out. And the first order of business is to try and figure out if this whole platform is still level. I brought my laser level with me, but I can't see it in the daylight. So I'm just going to roughly check with the level here. And as long as it looks pretty close, we're going to call it a win. I can always shim it later on, an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch if I need to. But basically, we poured these foundations in the fall. They've had a really horrible winter. And, if they haven't shifted too much this winter, we're going to call it a win and we're going to leave it basically as is. Awesome. So basically, it's within probably a quarter of an inch, eighth of an inch in some places. So we're going to call that perfect. Next thing we have to do is try and square the base. What makes it a little bit more complicated is these long sections are made of 2 10-footers or 2 8-footers. So they flex, they bow in the middle. So it's hard to move the whole, structure at once. Each of those metal post brackets, those 6x6 post brackets, each of them need to be bolted directly to the concrete below them. So what I think I'm going to do is mark out on the actual post below it where the bracket goes, and then I can move the whole structure off to the side, drill the holes, and then move everything back. All I'm going to do is outline this metal bracket here onto the concrete in each corner so that I can line it up. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll line up, and you can see where I have my Sharpie mark. I'm going to line up the bracket, and then I'm going to take my marker, and I'm only going to mark this side of the hole, and that's where I'm going to drill for the bolt. Now, I do have the bolts over here from last fall. Let's see. What do they look like? So they're just standard concrete anchoring bolts. This is what they look like here. Now I do have a hammer drill, and hopefully I have a bit big enough for that bolt. Let's see. Nope. You know, I may have spoken too soon. I don't think I have a bolt that's or a bit that's big enough. Darn. Yeah, no. What side of anchors did I use for the... Okay, so I'm gonna have to get a bit that's the right size, but I can pre-drill them with this smaller bit. And that way it'll all be ready for when I come out again next weekend. again, we line it up with our Sharpie marks, and then we drill on that side. Okay, perfect. All right, so we have our entire platform is square. We have pre-drilled for the concrete anchors. Sorry, I'm just gonna take my headphones off here. So next weekend, when I'm up, I'm gonna bring a concrete bit that matches the diameter for the expansion bolts there. And first thing that you do is you basically hammer this into the hole, you tighten the bolt, and that will tie this metal bracket to the concrete. And then I can move the posts on, screw the posts in, and then we're basically ready for framing. It's really that easy. I'm pretty excited. This actually went a lot easier than I thought it would. It's a shame I locked my keys in the tractor because I'd like to do a little bit more work with that. And it's really annoying about the bees. Again, I called my wife there actually about an hour ago, and she was really disappointed. And we can't really decide whether or not it's worth the effort to do bees again this year. So she's pregnant, and the baby is due early August. So it's a lot of work to keep the bees, and it's obviously going to be a lot of work after August. So yeah, stay tuned. We still have to decide. We haven't made any decisions yet. I think I'll just post today's video as a short, intro to the property and what my plans are for the hunting property, what my plans are for this property. And yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment. I haven't been great at replying to comments, but I do read them. And I have tons of footage, from the past 3 months, basically. Lots of projects, lots of footage. My biggest issue is just finding the time to edit. So bear with me. I'm still trying to get a hang of this. But it's been fun. And I have tons of footage. I have 2 or 3 or 4 videos that are in production right now. And until August, I'm going to be busy pretty much every weekend with projects and videos. So if you guys have any suggestions about the bees, if you guys keep bees and from my videos, if you have an idea of what happened to them, I think they basically starved. I don't think they had enough honey to survive the winter. But again, I'm no expert. And if you guys have any suggestions on what I should be planting in these food plots, that would be awesome. We are in Southern Ontario, and yeah, if you guys have any experience with that, let me know. So thanks for watching. It's getting dark. I think it's probably gonna rain shortly, so I'm gonna get out of here. It's been an awesome day just to get out of the city. And yeah, thanks. See ya.